Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Now, if you've been here since the beginning of my channel, this ain't nothing new to you. This is something that I was doing before, like when this channel first started back in 2018. I was doing these kind of videos. This is something that I love doing. This is something that I feel like I'm more entertaining while I'm doing. Today we're going to be doing a reaction video. Now, I know reaction videos have kind of gone out of style since 2018. I think they've come more into frame now with YouTube Shorts and streaming and stuff like that. But listen, I was doing this in 2018. I think I switched my content around when I had like 900 something subs. I switched up my content and I've never really gone back. Today, I'm going back to that reaction format, and for the rest of for a while at least, I'm going to be going back to daily reaction video uploads. Mainly because these are more fun for me. A lot of the gaming stuff that I do, it's fun in the moment, but I feel like I'm too boring when I'm talking to you guys, and I really don't want that to happen. So that's why I want to bring back reaction videos on my channel, and every now and then sprinkle in a little gaming stuff. If I'm with friends and we have a funny moments or something like that, I can upload. Cool. If not, I still have the reaction videos that I can post every day. So with that being said, today we're bringing it back. Daily reaction videos are starting today. Daily. I'm telling y'all daily. If I don't do daily, yell at me in the comment section down below about it. Real quick, a couple things I need y'all to do before we start this video. Link is in the description of my social medias. Go to my Twitter. Go to my Instagram. Check those out. Those will give you updates on certain stuff that is happening with the channel. So if you don't see videos for a minute, you know why. I'll post about it on the channel or on the Twitter and stuff. Also, check the community tab. Subscribe to this channel so you get community posts as well, because I'll also update you guys with the community posts. This is me reviving my channel. I love doing YouTube. I love doing videos. This is me reviving my channel, making it bigger than ever. So please, if you guys just take time out of your day, go in the description down below, click those links, go to my Twitter, follow me, go to my Instagram, follow me, so you guys get updates with everything that's going on. Next thing I need y'all to do in the comment section down below, let me know what y'all want me to react to next. It can be pretty much anything. Just let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, let's get right into this video. The video that we got going on today is the most insane emergency landings in the history of mankind by the infographic show. Another thing y'all need to do is check out the infographic show. Link is down in the description. Every reaction video I do, the original link will always be in the description. But yeah, man, let's get right into it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
The plane was cruising at 41,000 feet over Lake Ontario when suddenly a loud bong echoed around the cockpit. The pilots looked on as the
This is the wrong time for me to watch a video.
First
of all, this is the wrong time for me to watch a video like this because I'm about to go on a flight in like 2 weeks. So this is not great for me, but it's okay. It's okay.
7 was effectively a glider, and the only way was down. Fear spread through the passenger cabin. People screamed as the jet hurtled to the ground. What happens next? Well, buckle up. On today's episode of the infographic show, the most insane emergency landings in the history of mankind.
I know the ending of this story.
5,
Spoiler alert. They don't make it.
It's a beautiful day in Montreal, Canada, on July 22nd,
1983.
1983. Captain Robert Bob
I will
Pearson.
say the reason I chose this video, for one, I love watching plane crash documentaries. I think it's just fascinating to see like what goes wrong. But I also just love like true crime stuff as well. So I think this is a good mix of both, kind of. Like the true crime, not really, because it's not really a crime unless somebody did it purposely. But you know, I like watching plane crash documentaries because I'm interested to like see what goes wrong and what the investigators find. It's really interesting.
And First Officer Maurice Quintal are preparing Flight 143 for a trip to Ottawa and Edmonton. Pilots have been told that the FQIS, the fuel quantity indicating system, isn't working correctally.
That's
no
not
problem.
a good sign.
Pilots can measure the fuel themselves. And this is where things go wrong.
If I'm on your plane, and also sorry if I'm pausing so much, man. I just don't want to be sitting here just staring at it like some reactors just sit there and stare at the video and laugh every few seconds. That ain't me. I like to talk to you guys. Anyway, if I'm on your flight, you better make sure everything's working, because I don't care if you can eyeball the fuel or not. We need to know, because if not, you're not going to do it right. And that's like, That's like having a car with the gas thing don't work. Then what's the point of having it?
The Boeing
Come on now.
767 uses the metric system, but Air Canada is still clinging to its British roots and operates with the imperial
Lord.
system. Because,
Oh, no.
basing science on the length of a king's foot seems just so logical. Pearson mistakenly uses pounds per liter for the fuel's density instead of kilograms per liter, which the 767 actually requires. Since there are just over 2 pounds in a kilogram, the plane ends up with less than half of the fuel it needs to make the trip.
Hell
As
no.
Flight 143 is flying over Lake Ontario, an alarm goes off, indicating a fuel pressure problem on the left side of the plane. And then a second alarm goes off on the right side. Pearson, a little worried, decides they should land at nearby Winnipeg, but now a loud bong echoes through the plane, a sound no one on board has ever heard before, including the crew. It means both engines are dead. To make things worse, the plane's transponder isn't working, so air traffic controllers in Winnipeg don't know the 767's altitude.
Oh,
Flight
hell no.
143 is gliding
No.
through the air. Thankfully,
Hell
Captain
no.
Pearson is a very experienced glider pilot. However, even with Pearson's experience, it doesn't look like the plane can make Winnipeg. Worse yet, the vertical speed indicator, which Pearson needs to help him glide the
You
plane
don't catch
down,
me grabbing a
needs power
parachute,
from
jumping
the
about there.
engines to
Nuh-uh.
operate. Quintal suddenly has a bright idea. They don't need to get to Winnipeg. They can land at a closed airport, RCAF Station Gimli, Quintal's old Air Force base. So imagine everyone's surprise when a plane starts rapidly falling to the ground, only to see a whole bunch of cars and people wandering around the
Hell
base
no.
that they thought was abandoned. The area had been converted to the Gimli Motorsports Park, and a race was being held at the exact moment the mostly silent 767 was hurtling towards the people on the ground. To slow the plane down, Pearson pulls a glider trick called a forward slip, which creates some drag. This allows him to aim for the runway. The second...
See, I think the good thing about having a pilot that was also in the military is they know how to do shit that regular pilots probably won't even know how to do. So I think like you're safer with those kind of pilots because they like if you get into a bad situation, they'll fucking get you out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it isn't like a you're gonna die type of
Pearson
situation.
slams down.
Most of
front
the time,
wheel
most of the
landing
time.
gear gives out, making the plane's nose crash into the runway and skid along it. Though this sounds less than ideal, it does slow the plane down instead of letting it barrel into a bunch of kids. The landing gear then ends up straddling a rail, stopping the plane in its tracks. The entire glide lasted a horrifying 17 minutes. All of the bystanders and 61 passengers
17 minutes. Damn, that was
survived
quick.
with no major injuries. Air Canada Flight 143 at least had the advantage of being over ground. What happens when your engines fail over the Atlantic Ocean? That's what Captain Robert
I don't wanna
Pichet
know.
of Air Transat
I
Flight
don't want to know.
236
I don't
had to
take
find out
long
for
flights
himself.
for this reason.
Number 4, Azores
Being
glider.
over an ocean,
On
I don't
August
do that.
24th, 2001, Flight
If I'm going
236
somewhere,
was
it's gonna be
flying
inside
from
the U.S.
Toronto,
where I just have to
Canada,
go over
to
some
Lisbon,
land real
Portugal.
quick.
Captain Robert Pichet was at the controls of the
Fuck
Airbus
that. No, fuck
A330,
that. No.
carrying 306 passengers and crew. Just over 4 hours into the flight, at 5:03 a.m. local time, the pilots noticed increasingly worrying alerts going off, the last one showing a fuel imbalance. Though they didn't know it at the time, the fuel line for Engine 2 had started leaking. Air Transat used an incompatible spare engine for its plane. This led to the hydraulic and fuel lines rubbing
Why the
together and tearing.
You gonna use one that don't work? Who the hell are your engine? Who is your engineers? Huh? I said it really white because who is your engineers? Talking about some. I mean, it ain't gonna work, but fuck it, we gotta do it, I guess. The fuck, you better order the part.
The fuel line
fuck?
open. Unfortunately, the pilots react to the
Fuck all
alerts
that.
based
Nah,
on
hell
assumptions
no.
rather than using the essential pilot emergency checklist. They start funneling fuel
Oh,
from
hell
Engine
no.
1 to Engine 2 while redirecting the plane toward the Azores, the closest land to the plane's location. But this only makes things worse. Fuel is now leaking from
Catch me
both
landing on a
engines.
fucking island,
At
just-
39,000 feet, one engine stalls.
Right onto a
At
fucking island.
33,000 feet, the
Fuck it.
second one gives out.
Right
To
onto
make
an
things
island.
worse, Flight
I guess
235
it goes
is still
up to go down,
75
like,
miles
thing.
from Lajes Air Base, the
No,
airport
pull
that they
down.
want to land
Uh-huh.
at. Luckily, not only does
Or
Captain
push down, I
Pichet have
guess.
over 16,800 hours of flight experience, he is also, you guessed it, an experienced glider pilot.
Okay,
The
okay.
crew's training kicks in as they activate the
Okay.
emergency ram air turbine,
like that, I like
giving some
that.
power back to the plane. While plummeting to the earth at 2,000 feet per minute, or the height of 2 Eiffel Towers, Pichet finally sees the outline of an
Wow.
island looming out from the darkness. He uses his limited power to make one 360-degree turn and S-turns to lose altitude as they approach the land. The plane crashes down onto the runway, the wheels grinding down to their axles, with Pichet applying the maximum braking power he can to stop the plane. Everyone makes it off the plane alive, which is why, even though Pichet was found to be careless in an investigation, since he didn't handle the fuel alert.
To be fair, he was pretty reckless. Like, let's be honest, he was. He said, "Forget the guide. He threw that shit in the back." Imagine you, um, imagine you sitting in the back of the plane, and shit starts going wrong, and you can feel it like shaking a little bit, and and the pilot's doors are open, and he just goes, "Man, we don't need this." And just throws a guide of how to save all of you to the back.
Correctly, he was still honored with the Superior Airmanship Award. His
Okay,
75-mile glide is the longest ever recorded. The plane was nicknamed the Azores Glider. At least since the emergency happened in the early hours of the morning, the passengers could barely see or understand what was happening outside. The passengers on JetBlue
That's fine. That's fine.
292 didn't have to wonder at all, as they were watching live feeds of their own emergency landing. Number 3. Flight 292's Hollywood landing. When Flight 292 took off from Burbank Airport headed towards New York, the pilots noticed there was a small yet significant problem. The front wheels wouldn't retract after takeoff. Captain Scott Burke turned south toward Long Beach Municipal Airport, a JetBlue hub. He needed a visual of the wheels to establish the extent of the problem. The control tower confirmed the landing gear is rotated 90 degrees in the wrong direction and seemingly stuck. Burke thought about where to
Man, when I go on my flight in 2 weeks, they gonna have me looking at the plane, checking everything, making sure, like, I'm gonna get off the plane and start checking everything, making sure everything's working, because
land.
apparently they don't know how to do it. So
Realized LAX, Los Angeles' international airport, had much longer, wider runways that would suit an emergency landing. But first he had to burn off his fuel. Since the Airbus A320 Captain Burke is flying can't actually dump fuel, he begins to draw figure eights over Los Angeles for 2 hours to get rid of it. Understandably, that attracted the attention of people stuck in LA's endless traffic as they wondered what was happening above them. News crews started to broadcast the emergency on televisions all across the country. Inside the plane, the passengers were enjoying the in-flight entertainment, courtesy of JetBlue's DirecTV. Among the latest Hollywood blockbusters was the live footage of their own potentially deadly landing. As the emergency services lined the runway, Captain Burke managed to land the plane safely, the nose gear generating sparks and flames as it slid across the tarmac. Despite
oh, now you want to retract. After all of that, now the landing gear want to retract when it hits the ground. When things get hard, now it wants to go back up in the plane.
minor damage, everyone on board escaped unhurt. Since this is an LA to New York flight, there were entertainment industry professionals on board, including actress Taryn Manning and screenwriter Zach Dean. Dean would later go on to write Deadfall, a script inspired by his experience on the nerve-wracking JetBlue flight. However, when thinking of iconic emergency landings in movies, nothing compares to Sully. And no list of emergency landings would be complete without it. Number 2,
I've seen this
Miracle
movie.
on the Hudson.
It's a pretty good movie.
It's a
not gonna lie.
cold January day in 2009
But
when U.S. Airways Flight
this.
1549 takes off from LaGuardia Airport in New York City on its way to
I'm
Charlotte,
gonna let this
North
one ride
Carolina.
out. I'm gonna let this
Captain
one ride.
Chelsea Sullenberger and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles are in the cockpit. Just a few minutes in, a massive flock of birds flies directly at the plane. Both pilots hear an unnerving series of splats as birds hit both engines of the Airbus A320. Suddenly, the noises are replaced by an eerie silence. The birds have knocked out both engines. While engines can withstand some level of bird accidents, they are not built to withstand an Alfred Hitchcock invasion-like level of attack. The more experienced Sully immediately takes over control, while Skiles makes his way through an emergency checklist. It's no use, the engines won't restart. The plane is now circling the top tip of densely populated Manhattan. Air traffic controllers urge Sully back to LaGuardia, but he realizes he won't be able to make it. Even if he tried, there's a good chance he'd crash into Midtown Manhattan, killing thousands of people. Off to his right, he sees Teterboro Airport. His quick hope of landing there is immediately shot down when he realizes the plane is just a couple of thousand feet off the ground, with little time to maneuver.
You know what's something I've noticed? I know I said I was going to write it out, but I want my thought to get out here first. New York doesn't have a good track record with planes. They don't. 2001, this one, it's trending in a downward direction. There's probably been more. New York ain't the place you want to fly out of or to.
As the pilots realize they are out of options, they decide to do the only thing they can: land in the Hudson River. Sully goes on the plane's intercom telling the passengers to brace for impact, and the whole crew prepares for an emergency landing they almost certainly don't believe they can really make. The plane hits the water and stays afloat, at least long enough to get the passengers and crew out the emergency exits and onto the life rafts. Others gather on the wings of the aircraft, but the fear of an explosion causes some passengers to leap into the freezing Hudson. Ferries and boats are instantly sent to collect the passengers, who would otherwise have little hope of surviving in the Hudson River in winter temperatures. Sully becomes famous for what he accomplished, the miracle of the Hudson. However, he's far from the only captain to do something crazy in order to save his passengers.
Okay.
Enter Olympic Airways Flight 411.
It's a big ass plane, bro. Damn. You got full ass rooms. You just kick back, chilling and shit. Just vibing. This what they doing in that plane right now. Just chilling. Just kick back, chilling and shit, you know. Having a good ass time. You know, big ass airplane, bro. And big ass airplane. Anyway.
1, the most daring and dangerous emergency landing of all time.
Okay.
Number 1,
Okay.
feet from disaster. On August 9th, 1978, it was a balmy 109 degrees Fahrenheit in
Damn.
Athens, Greece. Pilot Sifis Migadis and his co-pilot Konstantinos Fikardos take off in one of the most impressive planes of that or any era, the Boeing 747-200. This massive plane has 4 engines to give it almost 46,000 pounds of thrust it needs
Damn.
to get off the ground. Fully loaded with 400 passengers and 18 crew, the plane has some problems. As engine 2 needs fixing, it's not operating on full thrust, but that doesn't mean the flight can't go ahead. The plane is also equipped with a water injection system to keep the engines cool enough to enable takeoff. At 2 p.m., the hottest part of the day, Flight 411 begins its journey to New York. Unfortunately, the water injection system is switched off. To this day, no one is sure why. This means the engines start to overheat in the hot Greek air. As the plane's wheels leave the ground, the passengers hear a sickening thump as Engine 3 disintegrates, with part of it falling off the aircraft onto the runway below, and everyone who paid for a window view immediately regrets it. Captain Migadis has a real problem. He had only 3 fully functional engines to begin with. Now he can barely get his plane to 600 feet, way too low in general, but more so when flying over a bustling capital city. To make matters worse, this is a city with a lot of hills. Looking out the cockpit window, the pilots see a 656-foot-high hill rapidly approaching. Ignoring his training, Captain Migadis knows he'll have to break a few rules to save his plane. He tells the co-pilot wheels up, which is against protocol, as it creates drag. But co-pilot Fikardos trusts Migadis and his 32 years of experience. In defiance of everything Boeing has said about its own aircraft, the plane stays in the air. The plane manages to clear the hill and continues to fly over Athens, dropping down to just 157 feet of altitude at one point. But it's the low altitude that may actually be what's keeping the plane from crashing. It creates a ground effect where the barrier of the ground will keep the airflow going around the wings, stopping the plane from stalling. But a second problem is starting to emerge. Athens is surrounded by low mountains, and Olympic Flight 411 is now approaching them. Migadis sees Mount Egaleo and makes the difficult decision to crash into the uninhabited mountain, knowing he is risking lives on board. The alternative is crashing into crowded downtown Athens. But as the plane leaves the city center, the temperature outside drops, giving the plane more thrust. A slight wind starts blowing back in the direction of Ellinikon Airport. Lastly, the engineer has finally switched on the water injection system. Migadis realizes he might be able to pull off a miracle. He uses the wind and his knowledge of aerodynamics to turn the plane towards the sea and gain some altitude, dumping fuel over the water as he makes a full circle back to the airport.
Okay.
Since pilots are taught the following list of priorities: aviate, navigate, communicate, and Migadis has been hyper-focused on doing the first 2 to avoid killing 400 people and crashing into the Acropolis, the control tower has heard nothing. So when they suddenly see a huge plane flying right back at them, everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Captain Migadis touches the plane down on the runway and walks into the airport to be greeted by his 2 daughters, who ran to the airport as soon as they heard about the unfolding disaster. Then, like a boss, he gets on another plane at 6 p.m. because he still has to get a bunch of people to New York. Now go check out how a 1 in a billion chance brought down a whole.
Hey man, look, that's a crazy video. The Sully one is the only one that wasn't really their fault. The other ones, it could have been prevented, like fairly enough. It could have been prevented. Like the last one, definitely could have been prevented. I don't know who turned their systems off, but it could have been prevented in pretty much all the cases except for the Sully one. I think that one was just Mother Nature. But yeah, man, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys drop a like down below. Let me know what you thought of this one. Comment down below what videos y'all want to see me react to next. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy, everybody. Peace off, guys.